Hey guys, I want to share something with you that um, the first time I said this was back in January at our 7-year birthday dinner for Men's Alliance. If you were there, you heard me mention this. And it's April now. And this was just really on my mind today. And I thought, you know what? There's a lot of people that weren't at the birthday dinner. And I really want to share this because it's very important to the DNA of Men's Alliance. And that is the Great Commission. In Matthew chapter 28, Jesus gives what's known as the Great Commission. And when I hear the word commission, I think of being an officer in the military. You receive a commission to become an officer in the military. I also think of like hiring somebody to do a painting for you. You commission them to do a painting. But this is just known as the Great Commission. It's like our big task that we've been ordered to do. And a lot of people mistakenly think that it's tell people about Jesus. The Great Commission is not go around the world telling everybody about the gospel. But we somehow fall into this kind of just this autopilot rut of just thinking that that's what it was. Go back and reread it. Matthew 28, Jesus says, "Go into all the world and make disciples." And then he says, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. But the first part of that is make disciples. Think about how you do that. We've been commissioned to make disciples. How does one make a disciple? Well, I'll tell you how you don't make a disciple. You don't make a disciple or disciples by just telling a huge group of people, huge crowd, telling them about Jesus. That's not actually how you make disciples. You make disciples the way Jesus did is he took a group of 12 men and he spent years, about 3 years, working with these 12 men. They ate meals together. They walked a lot. They went fishing. They went boating. Um, and they hung out. What modern churches would say they did life together, right? And that's what they did. Jesus poured in deep to 12, and that's how he made disciples. Now he made those disciples who went out, and then they made disciples. They had students. They wrote letters. They spread it from there, and those people did the same, and those people did the same, and then they did more of it, and so that's how it's spread, by investing deeply in the life of a few. That's the Great Commission. We've been commissioned to do this, to invest deeply into the lives of a few. Guys, that's what a tribe is. Your tribe that meets weekly around that fire, that's the Great Commission. This is how we do it. In fact, I believe that, most of our tribes meet outside of church buildings on the church properties, and we affiliate with many churches. We're affiliated with almost 70 churches right now, and that's awesome. And we meet outside of them, and some of them are led and run by Men's Alliance guys who don't even go to that church, but they let us use that property. We put our benches and our tires and build our fire there. And sometimes I think that group of men around that fire outside of the church building actually looks much more like the early church than what's going on inside of the church building. What Men's Alliance is doing, that's a church. We are a church. Church is the meaning of that word. That's just a group of Christians. It's the body of believers. That's the church. Church is not a building. Church is not a steeple. Church is the people. And the early church, the church that Jesus started, that Peter led, that looks more like a Men's Alliance tribe than thousands of people indoors that don't really know each other, not really doing life together, just coming together to hear one guy talk to them and to sing together. Great as that may be, that's not what the early church looked like. It looked more like a tribe. It looked more like going deeply with a dozen than shallow with thousands. So that's part of the Great Commission. Now, in Men's Alliance, we talk a lot about building barbarian ambassadors. And this reminded me of something. When I first commissioned as a second lieutenant in the Air Force, there was an older officer mentor of mine who said this. He said, anytime someone does not follow or obey a direct order, it's because of one of two reasons. It's either because there is a problem with their will or there's a problem with their skill. And I'll never forget the way he said that. And he said it's a will problem or it's a skill problem. The will problem means they just don't want to do it. They're just ignoring you. They're blowing you off. They don't feel like it. They don't want to do it. The problem is with their will. Or if it's a problem with their skill, they don't know how to do it. They haven't been trained to do it. They are incapable of it, no matter how much their will wants to obey this order. They just simply can't do it. So those are the two reasons why a person might not follow an order: problem of will or problem of skill. Now let's apply this to the Great Commission. This is our direct order. This is what we've been told to go do, go make disciples. This is what Jesus said right before he went back to heaven after his resurrection. He said, go into all the world and make disciples. So as Christians, if we're not doing this, it's a problem of our will or a problem of our skill. So Men's Alliance, building barbarian ambassadors, actually solves both of those problems. Because you think about this. A barbarian is one who, you've heard me say this enough by now. A barbarian is someone who is, as Romans 12:2 says, they are not conformed to this world. So a barbarian absolutely has the will to obey the Great Commission. And an ambassador is a person who has been trained to represent their king, Jesus. So an ambassador has the skill to fulfill the Great Commission. So in Men's Alliance, by building barbarian ambassadors, we are training men to have both the will and the skill to carry out our direct order, the Great Commission, making disciples for Christ. And again, you don't do this by flying into a city, putting on a big show, telling thousands of people great things, and then flying out of town. That's a great way to motivate people, to fire up people, to encourage people. And those are great things, but it's not enough. We can't just think that the big church experience is enough. We've got to do what Jesus did. We got to go deep with a dozen, not just shallow with thousands. So we've got to spend time with people to teach and train, to make disciples. That's our direct order. That's our Great Commission. In Men's Alliance, we're building the barbarian ambassadors to carry that out. And nowhere do we do that training to make men ambassadors better than at our Carry the Fire course. So if that's something you're interested in, if you're like, hey, man, I got the will, I just need a little bit more skill to be able to do this, then you are absolutely going to love our Carry the Fire. Speaking of Carry the Fire, we just opened up more courses. There's been so much demand. Our one that we just did was the largest we've done. The one before that was the largest we had done. We keep taking on more. What started off with just a couple of us guys, the demand has grown. Now, at every one of these, we have more and more leaders so that the group is always a group of no more than 12. So when we put on these Carry the Fires, no matter how big they get, it's a small group of 12. We're just able to have more small groups of 12. So you get to go through it with a true band of brothers. going deep with a few, just like Jesus did. So if you want that training to be a better ambassador, go to our website, men'salliancetribe.com, click on Carry the Fire. It's on our experiences page. It's going to tell you all about what you can expect, what you're going to get out of it. It is absolute ambassador training in its most rugged, barbaric form. I'm convinced that our Carry the Fire must be the most rugged apologetics training in the nation. Prove me wrong if you know of anything more rugged, but it's going to be a 8 weeks of online training together. This is not just watching videos. This is live online training where you log on to a class with us, but we're calling on you by name to answer questions. Very interactive. You're reading, you're listening to podcasts, you're logging into this class, you're taking a test, and then it culminates in our FTX, which is a 3-day all outdoor experience. Leadership challenges, ambassador training through practical apologetics, absolute nothing like it in the world. We've taken the best leadership training from the best military schools. We've got incredible guys that lead these events. You're going to walk away as a better leader, a better disciple, a better ambassador, a better husband, father. Probably is going to be the best weekend of your life, or absolutely one of them. You won't be disappointed. Every single guy that comes through it gives it a 5 out of 5. So check it out. Carry the Fire. Man, we want to fulfill the Great Commission, and we know you do too. This is how we do it, by going deep with a dozen, by forming the tribe of trained barbarian ambassadors. Guys, I look forward to seeing you around the fire.